History often hangs by the thinnest of threads. In May 1940, the British War Cabinet debated whether to fight on or negotiate peace with Adolf Hitler. They chose to fight, but they could easily have chosen differently. If they had, the swastika might fly today from Paris to Moscow. This story explores that alternate timeline, a dark reality where the Third Reich succeeded in its plans for a 1,000-year empire. We will examine the maps they actually drew, the buildings they designed, and the horrific systems they intended to implement. This is not science fiction. This is what was planned. The nightmare begins with a single political change in London. In our history, Winston Churchill refused to surrender. But in this timeline, Lord Halifax becomes Prime Minister in May 1940. Halifax believed Germany could not be defeated and pushed for a negotiated peace. With Britain out of the war, the German war machine never faces the Battle of Britain. The Royal Navy stays in port. The bombs never fall on Berlin. Hitler secures his western flank without losing a single soldier, allowing him to turn his entire military focus toward his true obsession, the destruction of the Soviet Union. The door to the east swings wide open. With no war in the West, 3 million German soldiers smash into the Soviet Union in 1941, supported by the full force of the Luftwaffe. In our timeline, the Germans were stopped at the gates of Moscow by winter and exhaustion. Here, with better supply lines and more troops available, they don't stop. Moscow falls in October 1941. The Soviet government collapses, and Stalin is either captured or flees deep into the Urals. The Red Army effectively ceases to exist as a cohesive fighting force. The Wehrmacht pushes forward to the AA line, the geographic goal Hitler had set for the operation, which was a military border stretching from Arkhangelsk in the north to Astrakhan in the south. By 1942, the map of Europe looks unrecognizable. Germany directly annexes vast territories, including Poland, Ukraine, and the Baltic states. France, Britain, and the Nordic countries exist as subservient puppet states, their economies rigged to feed the German industrial monster. The Mediterranean becomes an Axis lake, with Italy controlling the North African coast. The most terrifying change is in the east. The territory up to the Ural Mountains becomes the Lebensraum, or living space Hitler wrote about in Mein Kampf. Beyond the Urals, a rump Soviet state persists in the frozen wastelands of Siberia, bombed incessantly by the Luftwaffe to prevent any recovery. Europe is a fortress, and the drawbridge is pulled up. We are uncovering historical plans that were terrifyingly close to reality. If you want more investigations into history's biggest questions, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We upload new videos every week. We now turn to the dark reality of their plans for the population. The military conquest was only the beginning. The Nazi bureaucracy had developed Generalplan Ost, a blueprint for the colonization of the East. The story turns truly grim here. The plan called for the deportation or extermination of 31 to 45 million people. In this timeline, the Holocaust is not stopped in 1945, but instead expands. The plan specified that 85% of Poles, 75% of Belarusians, and 50% of Czechs would be removed from their lands to die or serve as slave labor. German settlers would move into the cleared territories, taking over farms and cities in a twisted version of the American frontier. The Hunger Plan would divert all food production to Germany, deliberately starving millions of remaining locals. With victory secured, Hitler returns to his favorite hobby, architecture. Berlin is leveled to make way for Welthauptstadt Germania, the world capital. Architect Albert Speer's designs move from paper to concrete. The center of the city is dominated by the Volkshalle, or People's Hall. This building is difficult to comprehend. Its dome would have been 290 meters high, tall enough to fit the Eiffel Tower inside. It was designed to hold 180,000 people for Nazi rallies. The structure is so massive that experts today believe the breath of the crowd would have formed rain clouds inside the dome. It stands as a monument to total power, designed to make every individual feel small and insignificant. The shiny marble of Germania hides a rotting economic core. The Nazi economy was a plunder economy. It functioned by looting the gold, art, and resources of conquered nations. In a victorious scenario, the looting eventually runs dry. To sustain the lifestyle of the German population, the Reich creates a massive caste system. The German mark becomes the only valid currency in Europe. Living standards for German citizens remain high only because the rest of the continent is stripped bare. It is a pyramid scheme on a continental scale, requiring constant expansion or deeper exploitation of the conquered territories just to keep the lights on in Berlin. The solution to their economic problems was slavery. By 1944, in our timeline, 20% of the German workforce was forced labor. In this victory timeline, that number rises drastically. Major German corporations run vast industrial complexes staffed entirely by Eastern workers who are worked to death. The V2 rocket factories and synthetic oil plants are staffed by millions of slaves brought in from the conquered East. This creates a terrifying social reality where the average German citizen lives a comfortable life in the suburbs, fully aware that their appliances, cars, and food are produced by a disposable population living in concentration camps just a few miles away. Across the Atlantic, the United States remains the last democracy standing. With Britain gone, the US never launches D-Day. Instead, a Cold War develops between Fortress Europe and North America. The Atlantic Ocean becomes a militarized zone. Both sides race to develop long-range weapons. In our history, the Germans were years behind in the nuclear race, but with the war in Europe over by 1942, their scientists have time to catch up. By the late 1940s, German V2 rockets are upgraded to intercontinental ballistic missiles, capable of hitting New York. A nuclear stalemate freezes the world in fear, with two superpowers aiming weapons of mass destruction at each other across the ocean. The Axis alliance was always a marriage of convenience. With the war won, the friendship between Germany and Japan evaporates. Hitler privately despised the Japanese, viewing them as racially distinct from his Aryan ideal. Berlin and Tokyo effectively divide the world at the 70th meridian east, running through India. Border skirmishes become common in the Indian Ocean. A three-way Cold War emerges between the German Reich, the United States, and the Japanese Empire. The world is divided into three closed trade zones, with almost no travel or communication between them. It is a global Orwellian nightmare. The Nazis were pioneers in using media for control. In this timeline, they become the first nation to roll out mass television. But instead of sitcoms, the programming is 24/7 propaganda, featuring speeches from the Volkshalle, documentaries about the inferior races, and sports events demonstrating Aryan physical superiority. The 1936 Olympics served as a mere test run. Every major city in Europe has giant screens installed in public squares. Technology advances rapidly in other areas too. Jet aircraft connect Berlin to Tokyo. The internet, or a version of it, might have been developed earlier, not as a tool for freedom, but as a surveillance network to track every citizen's movement and history. Totalitarian regimes have one major weakness, which is succession. By 1945, Hitler was already suffering from tremors, likely Parkinson's disease, and a heavy addiction to opiates administered by his doctor. In a victory scenario, his health continues to deteriorate. He likely dies in the early 1950s. His death triggers a massive power vacuum. The Nazi hierarchy was a snake pit of rivalries. Hermann Goering, Heinrich Himmler, and Joseph Goebbels hated each other. Without the dictator to keep them in check, the government fractures. The SS, the Wehrmacht, and the party bureaucracy all vie for control, potentially sparking a civil war within the Reich itself. Heinrich Himmler likely emerges as the most dangerous player in this struggle. He envisioned the SS not just as a police force, but as a state within a state, with its own economy, army, and religion. If Himmler takes power, the Reich moves from a fascist dictatorship to a mystical, neo-pagan order. He planned to eliminate Christianity and replace it with ancestor worship and SS rituals. Under his rule, the terror apparatus would expand even further. The Gestapo would be in every home. The few remaining freedoms would vanish entirely, as Europe turns into a giant barracks run by fanatical ideologues. You cannot occupy an entire continent forever without resistance. While the armies are defeated, the people are not. An underground resistance movement thrives across Europe. In the forests of Poland and the mountains of Yugoslavia, partisans wage a never-ending guerrilla war. In the cities, groups like the White Rose distribute leaflets and sabotage factories. The Reich responds with brutal reprisals, burning villages and executing hostages. But for every insurgent they kill, 2 more appear. The German army is forced to remain on constant alert, bleeding manpower and resources just to maintain order in their own empire. The occupation becomes a permanent, exhausting police action. By the 1960s, the cracks in the foundation become impossible to ignore. The slave labor system stifles innovation because there is no incentive to build a better machine when human lives are free. The lack of free markets leads to stagnation. While the United States booms with consumer technology and rock and roll, the Reich is stuck producing tanks and concrete. The cost of maintaining a massive military to hold down the colonies in the East bankrupts the state. Just like the Soviet Union in our timeline, the Nazi Empire begins to rot from the inside. The promised prosperity never arrives for the average German, leading to disillusionment and unrest. No empire lasts forever. Whether through internal civil war, economic collapse, or a democratic uprising, the 1,000-year Reich would likely fail to last even a century. But the damage would be irreversible. In this timeline, the 20th century is not remembered as an era of progress, but as a dark age of industrialized slaughter. European culture, with its diversity of art, literature, and thought, is homogenized into a gray, militaristic monoculture. The demographics of the continent are permanently altered. When the walls finally come down, the world finds a Europe that is scarred, traumatized, and missing entire nations that were simply wiped off the map. Looking at this alternate reality reminds us that progress is not guaranteed. The freedom we enjoy today was fought for and bought with the lives of millions who refused to surrender in 1940. The world we live in, with all its flaws, is a paradise compared to the one they planned for us. It serves as a stark warning of what happens when hate is allowed to organize and conquer. If you found this analysis fascinating, subscribe for more examinations of history's most critical turning points. We'll see you in the next one.